The Soul's Many Stops, by David Russo. Introduction. The Traveler Within. There is a part of you that has never changed, not the body, which ages and reshapes itself with time, not the personality, which adapts to survive and belong, not the beliefs, which evolve as new experiences challenge old conclusions, but the silent witness behind every experience. Close your eyes for a moment. Notice your thoughts moving. Notice sensations rising and fading. Notice emotions appearing like weather across an inner sky. Now ask gently, who is noticing? Across centuries and civilizations, humanity has circled this mystery. In the sacred dialogue of the Bhagavad Gita, the soul is described as eternal, never born and never destroyed. The Greek philosopher Plato wrote of learning as remembering, as if truth lives within us before we ever encounter it. The mystic poet Rumi spoke of being a drop that contains the ocean, suggesting that what appears small and separate is, in essence, inseparable from the whole. Different languages, different metaphors, one recurring intuition. We are more than a single lifetime, more than a single story, more than a single name. Yet this audiobook is not an argument. It is not a doctrine to defend or a belief system to adopt. It is an invitation to consider that life may be a journey with many stops, and that this present moment is one sacred station along the way. Imagine a traveler who has forgotten they are traveling. They step off at a station and believe it is the final destination. They decorate the waiting room. They argue over seating arrangements. They fear the departure board. But somewhere deep within, a quiet knowing whispers, "This is not all there is." That whisper may have visited you before, perhaps in moments of awe standing beneath a vast sky, feeling small yet strangely infinite. Perhaps in grief when love felt too large to fit inside one lifetime. Perhaps in silence when the noise of identity fell away, and something steady remained. That steadiness is what we are exploring. Some call it soul, some call it consciousness, some call it awareness. Words differ, the experience does not. You have had many roles in this life alone. Child, friend, stranger, lover, professional, seeker. Each role feels real while you inhabit it. Each one shapes you, and yet, when a role ends, something continues. The same I that played as a child is present now. Even if the body and mind have transformed beyond recognition, what if that continuity extends further than we assume? What if birth is not the beginning, but a beginning? And what if death is not the end, but a transition? Across cultures, stories of continuity appear again and again, not as proof carved in stone, but as patterns in human intuition. Civilizations separated by oceans and centuries speak of the soul's endurance, of lessons unfolding across time, of consciousness evolving through experience. It is as though humanity, in different dialects, keeps remembering the same truth. This audiobook does not demand certainty. Mystery is allowed here. Doubt is welcome. Curiosity is enough. Think of this journey as contemplative rather than conclusive. We will explore the possibility that consciousness precedes the body, that forgetting may be intentional, that identity is a costume worn for growth, that relationships may be purposeful crossings, that death may be a doorway rather than a wall. You are free to accept, question, or reinterpret every idea. The only request is this: listen not only with the intellect, but with the quiet place inside that recognizes resonance. If something feels expansive, stay with it. If something feels challenging, observe it gently. If something feels unfamiliar, let it rest without forcing belief. Spiritual exploration is not about collecting answers. It is about deepening awareness. And awareness, once expanded, rarely contracts completely. There is a traveler within you. It has moved through seasons of joy and sorrow, through certainty and confusion, through attachment and release. It has watched your life unfold with patient attention, and it is watching now. As these words move through your awareness, notice the simple fact of being aware, not the content of experience, but the capacity to experience. That capacity may be the most intimate mystery of all. If the soul has many stops, then this moment matters profoundly, not because it is permanent, but because it is formative. Every choice, every reaction, every act of love or fear shapes the traveler. You are not here by accident. You are not limited to what you currently remember. You are not confined to a single chapter. This introduction is a doorway, Beyond it lies an exploration of origins and endings, of forgetting and remembering, of separation and unity. We will move gently through these landscapes not to escape the human experience, but to deepen it, because if the soul is indeed traveling, then this life is not a detour. It is a destination in its own right, a sacred stop, and you aware, breathing, listening are the traveler within. Chapter 1. Before the first breath. Before your first cry pierced the air, before your lungs expanded, before anyone whispered your name there was awareness. Not your personality, not your preferences, not your history. Awareness. Most of us assume consciousness begins at birth, as though it flickers on like a switch the moment oxygen meets the bloodstream. But what if birth is not the ignition of awareness, only its focusing? In the teachings of Ramana Maharshi, the essential spiritual inquiry is simple yet radical. Who am I? Not who am I socially, not who am I professionally, but who am I prior to thought. When you turn attention inward, something extraordinary happens. Thoughts arise, memories, plans, commentary. Emotions move through anticipation, boredom, curiosity. Sensations pulse pressure, warmth, breath, and yet, something remains constant. You are aware of them, which means you cannot be limited to them. The body changes continuously. Science confirms that most of your cells regenerate over time. The personality shifts with experience. Beliefs once defended fiercely may soften or dissolve entirely, and still, the sense of I am persists beneath the transformation. That quiet sense of being before it attaches to this. Or that is the doorway to a deeper question. If awareness is present now, independent of the changing content within it, could it have existed before this particular configuration of body and biography? Ancient traditions have long suggested so. In the Upanishads, consciousness is described not as something produced by the body, but as the underlying reality in which body and world appear. Awareness is not inside the human being. The human being is inside awareness. This reverses the modern assumption. Instead of the brain generating consciousness the way a lamp generates light, perhaps the brain functions more like a lens focusing a vast field of awareness into a specific, localized experience. Consider sunlight passing through a prism. The white light appears to separate into colors red, blue, violet, yet the colors were always inherent in the light. The prism does not create them, it reveals and refracts them. Perhaps the body is a prism. Before birth, awareness may be undifferentiated, limitless, unbound. At birth, that same awareness narrows into perspective. It begins to say I and mine. It identifies with a face in the mirror. It learns a language and forgets the silence from which language emerged. But forgetting does not equal non-existence. Think of deep sleep. Each night, personality dissolves. The narrative pauses. There is no world, no problem, no ambition. And yet upon waking, you say, I slept well. Something was present to register even the absence of experience. What if birth is similar, not the creation of awareness, but the awakening into a particular dream? This idea does not require blind belief. It invites observation. Right now, as you listen, notice the simple feeling of existing, not the details of your life story, and thus the fact of being. That sense of presence does not have an age. It does not feel older or younger than your body. It simply is. Children feel it. Elders feel it. Across decades, that core presence remains strangely untouched by time. The face in the mirror changes. The witness does not. If awareness precedes identity, then your essence is not confined to this chapter of embodiment. Birth becomes an arrival, not an origin, a focusing, not a beginning. And with that possibility comes a profound shift. You are not merely a biological event in an indifferent universe. You may be consciousness choosing experience. Before the first breath, there may have been silence, not emptiness, but fullness without form, a field of potential, a vastness without edges, and then a narrowing, a heartbeat, a body forming, a story beginning, not the start of awareness, but its next expression. The traveler did not begin at the station. The traveler arrived there. Chapter 2. The Veil of Forgetting. If the soul is eternal, a natural question arises. Why don't we remember? If we have lived before, if awareness existed prior to this body, why is there no clear memory of it? Why do we arrive in this life as blank slates, dependent and uncertain, as though nothing came before. Many spiritual traditions speak of a veil, not as punishment, not as flaw, but as necessity. In the teachings reflected in the Dhammapada, attachment to identity creates the illusion of separateness. We cling to what we call self, mistaking temporary formations for something permanent. Forgetting, in this view, may be part of the design that allows experience to feel immediate and real. Imagine entering a play while remembering every line, every twist, every ending. The drama would lose its intensity. The risks would feel artificial. The growth would be simulated rather than earned. Immersion requires mystery. For a human life to unfold with authenticity, it may need uncertainty. It may need the genuine tension of not knowing how the story resolves. Consider how children learn. They do not enter the world remembering language, mathematics, or social customs. They discover them slowly, through trial and error. The process shapes them. The struggle builds neural pathways, resilience, creativity. What if the soul learns the same way? If you remembered every prior lifetime, every triumph and failure, every relationship and consequence, would this life feel as urgent, as meaningful? Or would it feel like repetition? For experience to transform us, it must feel immediate. For courage to matter, fear must feel real. The veil of forgetting may be the condition that makes growth possible. There is also compassion in forgetting. Imagine carrying the emotional weight of every loss you have ever endured across multiple lifetimes. Every grief layered upon every other. The heart might collapse beneath such accumulation. Forgetting allows renewal. Each life begins with a kind of mercia, narrowing of memory so that the present can be inhabited fully. We are given a fresh context, a new cast of characters, a different landscape in which to explore awareness. Yet even within the forgetting, hints remain. Why do certain places feel strangely familiar? Why do some connections form instantly, as if continuing an unfinished conversation? Why do particular fears or talents arise without obvious origin? Some interpret these as echoes, not full recollections but impressions, subtle residues of prior experience shaping present tendencies. Forgetting may not be absolute. It may be selective, like an actor who forgets the details of previous roles yet retains the skill acquired from them. The soul may forget the storyline, but carry forward the wisdom. This could explain why growth feels cumulative, why maturity sometimes arrives without clear instruction, why some lessons seem to repeat until finally understood at a deeper level. The veil does not erase essence. It softens memory so immersion can occur. And perhaps forgetting serves another purpose. Humility. When we do not remember our full nature, we seek, we question, we explore. The search itself becomes transformative. Spiritual inquiry is born from the tension between what we sense and what we can confirm. If we arrived fully aware of our eternal identity, would we bother to discover compassion, patience, forgiveness? Or would we bypass the very experiences that cultivate them? The veil ensures participation. It ensures that love must be chosen, that wisdom must be integrated, that awareness must be realized, not merely recalled. And yet, sometimes the veil thins, in meditation, in profound love, in moments of awe or near-death stillness. For a brief instant, identity loosens. The boundary between me and life softens. A deeper presence becomes palpable, familiar, yet expansive. These moments feel like remembering something we never learned. Perhaps we are. The veil of forgetting may not be a barrier meant to trap us. It may be a curtain drawn at the beginning of a performance necessary so that the play can unfold with meaning, and as the journey continues, that curtain may lift, slowly and gently, revealing that the one who seemed lost was never truly separate. We forget so that we can rediscover, and in the rediscovery, awareness becomes conscious of itself once more. Chapter 3: Identity. The first costume. The moment you are born, a story begins forming around you. A name is chosen, a language surrounds you, a culture shapes your gestures, your humor, your sense of what is possible. Before you can speak, you are being defined. This is not a mistake. It is part of the design. Identity is the soul's first costume. It is stitched from geography and family history, from praise and criticism, from what was encouraged and what was discouraged. Slowly, carefully, the costume fits so well that you forget you are wearing it. You begin to say, this is who I am. But look closely, you were not born knowing your nationality. You were not born with political opinions. You were not born preferring one tradition over another. These were learned, absorbed, modeled, which means they are additions, not essence. The philosopher Socrates famously declared that wisdom begins in recognizing how little we truly know. Embedded in that humility is a deeper insight. Much of what we call self has never been examined. It has simply been inherited. Identity gives structure to experience. It allows you to participate in the world. Without it, interaction would be impossible. Language, roles, and values provide the framework through which consciousness expresses itself. But structure is not the same as substance. In the teachings of Eckhart Tolle, the ego is described as the mental image we construct about who we are, our labels, achievements, failures, affiliations. The ego is not evil. It is functional. But when mistaken for our entire being, it becomes restrictive. Imagine an actor who forgets they are acting. They step onto the stage and play the role with conviction. That conviction is necessary. The audience must believe the character is real. But if the actor never steps off stage, if they begin to believe they are only the character, the performance turns into imprisonment. Identity is meant to be inhabited, not worshipped. You are a parent or not, a leader or not, a believer or not, successful or struggling, confident or uncertain. Each of these may be true in context. None of them are the whole truth. The tragedy is not that we were identities. The tragedy is that we cling to them as if they are permanent. We defend them. We fear their loss. We compare them. We build hierarchies of worth based on them. Yet over a single lifetime, identity shifts repeatedly. The shy child becomes the outspoken adult. The ambitious professional becomes the reflective elder. The skeptic becomes the seeker. If identity can change so dramatically within one life, what does that suggest about its permanence? Perhaps identity is not who you are, but how you are expressing in this chapter. Through identity, the soul explores perspective. Through limitation, it discovers creativity. A specific culture allows certain lessons. A particular temperament invites certain challenges. Even perceived weaknesses can become pathways to depth and empathy. The costume is tailored for growth, and when the role begins to loosen through crisis, transformation, or spiritual inquiry, something remarkable happens. There can be fear, yes, but also expansion. When you no longer cling to a rigid definition of yourself, possibilities multiply. Compassion widens. Judgment softens. You begin to see that others are also wearing costumes, different fabrics, different colors, but costumes nonetheless. Behind every role is awareness. Behind every label is presence. This realization does not require you to abandon your identity. It invites you to hold it lightly, play your role fully, engage your culture thoughtfully, honor your history honestly. But remember, you are not limited to the costume. You are the consciousness animating it. And when this chapter concludes, when the role dissolves, and the stage changes, the actor remains. The traveler changes garments. The journey continues. Chapter 4. The Curriculum of Contrast. If life were made only of pleasure, growth would be shallow. If every desire were fulfilled instantly, patience would never deepen. If every relationship were effortless, compassion would remain theoretical. If every day were bright, we would never understand the meaning of light. The soul does not awaken through comfort alone. It awakens through contrast. Joy reveals what is possible. Pain reveals what matters. We learn the shape of gratitude because we have known loss. We recognize peace because we have felt chaos. Even the simple experience of warmth becomes meaningful only after cold. Contrast is not cruelty. It is curriculum. The ancient philosopher Pythagoras taught that harmony arises from opposing forces, like strings pulled tight in opposite directions. To create music, without tension, there is no resonance. Without polarity, there is no melody. In much the same way, the soul evolves through the friction of experience. Consider your own life. The moments that shaped you most deeply were likely not the easiest ones. Challenge demanded resilience. Heartbreak invited self-examination. Failure dismantled illusions and revealed hidden strength. This does not mean suffering is automatically sacred. Not all pain is purposeful. Some experiences are the result of unconscious choices, collective harm, or random circumstance. To romanticize suffering would be to dismiss real human struggle, and yet, pain can become transformative when met with awareness. The difference lies not in the event, but in the response. Two people may endure the same hardship. One emerges embittered, closed, rigid. The other emerges softened, wiser, more compassionate. The outer event may be identical. The inner integration differs. Contrast provides the raw material. Consciousness determines the outcome. Imagine a sculptor working with stone. The hammer strikes are not gentle. The chisel carves away large pieces. From the perspective of the stone, the process might seem destructive, but from a wider view, form is being revealed. In moments of difficulty, it can feel as though life is removing parts of us we rely upon: security, certainty, identity. Yet sometimes, what is being carved away is not essence, but illusion. We may believe we are only our achievements until they disappear. We may believe we are only our relationships until they change. We may believe we are only our strength until vulnerability opens us. Contrast exposes false foundations. It also expands capacity. The heart that has known grief often loves more consciously. The person who has faced fear often acts with greater courage, not because fear vanished, but because it was faced and integrated. There is a quiet alchemy in this process. Anger can mature into clarity. Loss can deepen into appreciation. Loneliness can turn into self-knowledge. None of this negates the pain. It reframes its potential. If the soul is indeed traveling across many experiences, then contrast may be one of its greatest teachers. Not to punish, not to test arbitrarily, but to stretch awareness beyond complacency. Light is understood because of darkness. Without night, the stars would be invisible. Without questions, answers would feel hollow. The curriculum of contrast ensures that awakening is not abstract. It is embodied. It is lived. It is earned through presence in the midst of opposites. When you encounter difficulty, you may ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Another question may be just as powerful. What is this shaping within me? Growth does not always feel graceful. Evolution is not always comfortable, but tension can refine. Pressure can reveal hidden resilience. The soul does not seek suffering, but it does seek expansion. And sometimes expansion arrives disguised as opposition, inviting you not merely to endure, but to awaken more fully within the contrast. Chapter 5: A Sacred Agreements. There are people you meet who feel familiar before you know their story. A conversation begins, and something inside you relaxes as if you are continuing rather than starting. Time bends, guardedness softens, recognition hums beneath the surface. What explains that? Chemistry is one answer, shared background is another, and yet, sometimes the familiarity exceeds circumstance. It feels older than context. Some spiritual perspectives suggest that relationships are not random intersections, but sacred agreements, encounters arranged at a level of awareness deeper than memory. Before birth, it is said, souls choose themes for growth. If this is so, then relationships become the classrooms where those themes unfold. The one who challenges you may be shaping your strength. The one who misunderstands you may be refining your clarity. The one who loves you steadily may be anchoring your courage. Not all connections are gentle. Some arrive like storms, disruptive, disorienting, unforgettable. Yet even these may carry purpose beyond preference. In the mystical poetry of Khalil Gibran, love is described not as possession, but as a force that crowns you and crucifies you. It expands and reshapes. It asks more of you than comfort ever could. If we view relationships through the lens of sacred agreement, a subtle shift occurs. Instead of asking only, "Why is this person in my life?" we might also ask, "What is this connection awakening in me?" Growth is often relational. Patience is not developed in isolation, it is refined in the presence of irritation. Forgiveness requires someone to forgive. Boundaries become meaningful only when tested. Generosity deepens when there is someone to receive. Even brief encounters can redirect an entire life. A teacher who speaks one timely sentence, a stranger whose kindness interrupts despair, a friend who believes in you before you believe in yourself. These crossings may appear accidental, but what if they are intentional intersections in a much larger design? This does not imply rigid destiny or scripted outcomes. Choice remains, response remains. Two people may share an agreement for growth, yet how they meet it is fluid. Love can be embraced or resisted. Lessons can be integrated or repeated. Sacred agreements are invitations, not guarantees. They also extend beyond romance and friendship. Family relationships often carry the greatest intensity. Shared history amplifies both love and friction. Patterns echo across generations, inviting healing that may reach further than a single lifetime. Perhaps the soul chooses environments that will surface unresolved themes, not to suffer endlessly, but to bring unconscious material into awareness. The person who triggers you most deeply may be holding a mirror. The reflection is not always flattering, but mirrors are not enemies. They reveal what we cannot see alone. And then there are those rare connections where silence feels complete, where understanding does not require explanation. These relationships can feel like home. Maybe they are reminders that beneath personality and difference, something shared exists, a recognition beyond language, a quiet memory of unity glimpsed through individuality. If the soul is traveling through many stops, it likely does not travel alone. Journeys intersect, paths converge and diverge. Some companions walk beside us for decades. Others appear only for a season. Duration does not determine significance. What matters is the awakening that occurs within the connection. When a relationship ends through distance, conflict, or death, it is natural to feel loss. But perhaps completion is not failure. Perhaps the agreement has fulfilled its purpose. Gratitude can exist alongside grief. To view relationships as sacred agreements is not to deny pain or complexity. It is to approach connection with reverence, to recognize that each encounter carries potential for expansion. We are not merely random collisions in a crowded world. We may be intentional crossings, souls meeting at precisely the point where growth becomes possible. And in each meeting, gentle or fierce, the traveler within you is shaped, refined, and quietly guided toward greater awareness. Chapter 6: Death and the Continuum of Consciousness. Few words carry as much weight as death. It silences rooms. It tightens the chest. It confronts every identity with its apparent end. From the perspective of the body, death is undeniable. Cells cease functioning. Breath slows and stops. The heart releases its rhythm. Biology completes its cycle. But is biology the whole story? For centuries, humanity has wrestled with this question. Ancient traditions describe death not as annihilation, but as transition. The Tibetan Book of the Dead portrays dying as a passage through states of consciousness, an unfolding journey rather than a sudden void. In more recent times, researchers such as Raymond Moody have documented thousands of near-death experiences. Across cultures and backgrounds, similar themes emerge: a sensation of leaving the body, encountering light, reviewing one's life, feeling profound peace or expanded awareness. Skeptics interpret these accounts as neurological events, brain chemistry under extreme stress. Others see them as glimpses beyond the physical threshold. This audiobook does not insist on a single interpretation. It invites contemplation. If consciousness were solely produced by the brain, like music produced by a radio, then when the instrument breaks, the music would cease. Yet another possibility exists. The brain may function more like a receiver. When the receiver fails, the broadcast may continue, even if it is no longer audible in the same way. This metaphor cannot be proven easily, but neither can consciousness itself be reduced neatly to matter. Despite extraordinary advances in neuroscience, the hard problem of consciousness remains unresolved. How does subjective experience arise from physical processes? Why does awareness exist at all? When we examine death closely, we notice something revealing. What we fear is often not non-existence itself, but the loss of identity, the roles, relationships, and stories that define us. We fear losing me, but throughout life, versions of me have already died. The child you once were no longer exists. The teenager with certain dreams and insecurities has dissolved. Old beliefs, old ambitions, even old friendships have faded, and yet something continuous has remained, the quiet witness of all these changes. Death may be the most dramatic transformation of identity, but transformation is not unfamiliar. It has been occurring in subtler forms all along. Those who have sat beside the dying often describe a shift in atmosphere, a softening, a sense that something intangible is withdrawing even before the body fully stops. Language struggles to describe it. We say, "They are gone," Even though the body is still present, what has gone, whatever it is not measurable by weight or visible to the eye, and yet its absence is unmistakable. If consciousness is fundamental rather than accidental, if it is primary rather than derivative, then death may be less like a wall and more like a doorway, an ending for the body, a release of identity, a passage for awareness. This possibility does not eliminate grief. Love naturally mourns form when form disappears. Missing someone is the echo of connection. Grief honors significance, but fear may soften when we consider that what is essential cannot be destroyed. Energy transforms, matter rearranges, seasons cycle, nature demonstrates continuity through change at every scale. Perhaps consciousness participates in that same continuity. If so, death is not the opposite of life. It is part of its rhythm, a transition from one expression to another, a crossing from one station to the next. The traveler does not vanish when leaving a train. The traveler continues the journey carrying, perhaps, the essence of every lesson learned, every love shared, every awareness expanded, and if that is true, then death, while solemn, is not final. It is a threshold, and consciousness, ancient and enduring, steps across it into the next unfolding of the journey. Chapter 7. Many Lives. One Journey. If consciousness continues beyond a single lifetime, what shape might that continuity take? One of the most enduring answers across cultures is reincarnation, the idea that awareness returns, again and again, through different bodies and circumstances, gathering experience like a traveler collecting stamps in a well-worn passport. In the Bhagavad Gita, changing bodies is compared to changing garments. When clothes become worn, they are set aside. The wearer remains. The essence is not diminished by the exchange. This metaphor is simple, yet its implications are profound. If life is not a singular event, but one chapter in a vast narrative, then growth need not be rushed. Justice need not be confined to a single span of years. Lessons can unfold gradually, across contexts and cultures, through varied roles and perspectives. Power in one lifetime, humility in another, wealth in one, simplicity in the next. Each incarnation could explore a different angle of the same essential awareness. Reincarnation appears in Hindu and Buddhist traditions, in certain streams of mysticism, and even in the philosophical reflections of Plato, who wrote of the soul's journey through multiple embodiments. Though interpretations differ, the central intuition remains. Existence may be far more expansive than one birth and one death. If this is so, then comparison loses its sharpness. Why envy another's beginning if you have walked different terrain before? Why despair over a slow start if time itself is abundant? Each life becomes less of a race and more of a curriculum, precisely arranged for the growth required in that chapter. This perspective also reframes difficulty. What if recurring patterns in your life are not punishments, but unfinished lessons seeking integration? What if certain fears or attractions are echoes of previous experiences, inviting resolution rather than repetition? The idea of many lives does not eliminate responsibility. In fact, it deepens it. Every action becomes a seed. Every choice shapes not only the present moment, but the trajectory of consciousness itself. You are not only living a life, you may be shaping the conditions of future experience. Yet reincarnation is not merely about cause and effect. It is also about wholeness. If the soul expresses through countless forms different genders, cultures, temperaments, abilities, then over time it gathers a mosaic of perspective. It learns empathy by being many things. It understands compassion not as theory, but as lived reality from multiple sides. Victim and healer, student and teacher, leader and follower, through many lives, the soul may not be climbing toward perfection, but toward integration, toward a completeness that embraces all facets of experience. This possibility invites humility. The person you judge may have once stood where you stand. The stranger you misunderstand may carry wisdom you have yet to discover. If we have all walked different stretches of the same vast journey, then separation begins to soften. At the same time, reincarnation offers hope. No single mistake defines you forever. No single chapter contains the entirety of your becoming. Growth can continue. Healing can unfold beyond what this lifetime alone might allow. You are not a fleeting accident in an indifferent cosmos. You may be a timeless traveler exploring the infinite through temporary forms. And if that is true, then this life right now is both deeply significant and beautifully provisional. One stop among many, one classroom in a much larger school, one expression of a consciousness that has worn countless garments and will, perhaps, wear countless more, many lives, one journey, and the traveler continues. Chapter 8. The Illusion of Separation. From the moment you learn to speak, you learn to separate. This is me, that is you, this is mine, that is yours. Language draws lines, culture reinforces them, the body itself seems to confirm them, skin marking the edge of where I end and the world begins. And yet, mystics across centuries have whispered a different truth. In the non-dual teachings of Adi Shankaracharya, reality is described as one indivisible consciousness appearing as many forms. In the ecstatic poetry of Rumi, the boundary between lover and beloved dissolves into unity. Across traditions, the insight echoes. Separation may be experiential but not ultimate. Consider the ocean. On its surface, waves rise and fall. Each wave appears distinct. One is taller, one is smaller, one crashes early, another travels farther. If waves could speak, they might compare themselves endlessly, but every wave is made of the same water. Its apparent individuality is temporary. Its essence is shared. Human beings may be similar, distinct in form, unified in substance. Biologically, we are already interconnected. The air you exhale becomes someone else's inhale. The food you eat is transformed sunlight. The atoms in your body were forged in ancient stars. Science, in its own language, points toward interdependence. Spiritually, the insight goes further. What if consciousness itself is not divided, but expressed through countless vantage points? What if there are not billions of separate awarenesses, but one awareness looking out through billions of eyes? This possibility can feel abstract until glimpsed directly. Have you ever been so absorbed in beauty that the sense of me momentarily vanished? Watching a sunset, listening to music, holding someone you love. In those moments, the boundary between observer and observed softens. There is only experience, whole, seamless, immediate. The separate self returns quickly. It must. Function requires distinction. Roles require identity. Without a sense of individuality, navigation of the world would be impossible. Separation allows relationship. Unity reveals truth. Both are necessary stops on the journey. The illusion of separation becomes problematic only when it hardens into isolation, when we forget the underlying connection. From that forgetting arise fear, competition, and indifference. If I am entirely separate from you, your suffering has nothing to do with me. But if, at a deeper level, we share the same ground of being, then compassion becomes natural. Your joy expands me, your pain touches me. This realization does not erase individuality. It reframes it. You remain a unique expression, your history, your personality, your perspective unlike any other. Just as no two waves are identical, no two human lives are the same. Yet beneath the surface differences, the same ocean moves. When we identify solely with the wave, we live in constant anxiety, afraid of crashing, competing for height, comparing our shape to others. When we remember we are water, something relaxes. Crashing is no longer annihilation, it is return. The illusion of separation is convincing. It feels real because it is real at a certain level of experience. But it may not be the final level. If the soul has many stops, then one of them is this: the realization that what we thought was divided is deeply connected, not as a belief, not as a philosophy, but as a lived awareness. To walk through life, remembering unity while honoring individuality, is a delicate balance. It means engaging fully in your unique role, while recognizing that every other role arises from the same source. The traveler appears as many, the journey is shared, and beneath every name and form, the same quiet awareness looks out, discovering itself in countless reflections. Chapter 9. Living Awake. If life is one stop among many, how should we live? Not carelessly, not detached, but consciously. To live awake is to notice, to choose, to participate with awareness in every moment. It is to step fully into the play without mistaking the stage for the entire world. Each breath, each glance, each gesture becomes meaningful not because it is permanent, but because it shapes consciousness itself. Awakening begins small. It starts with noticing, feeling the texture of a hand against yours, the rhythm of your own breath, the rise and fall of thought without judgment. These moments are not trivial. They are invitations to presence, to remember the traveler who observes behind all appearances. To live awake is to confront life directly, without running from discomfort or clinging to comfort. Joy becomes deeper when paired with awareness. Suffering, though inevitable, transforms when met with recognition rather than denial. Contrast: the teacher of the soul becomes a catalyst rather than a burden. Conscious living reshapes relationships. To forgive is not just an act toward another, but a liberation for your own awareness. To love fully is to see unity in diversity, to embrace the interwoven dance of separation and connection. To create, in any form, is to participate in the unfolding of the universe itself. Every choice, however small, ripples outward, shaping not only the present moment, but the contours of consciousness. Living awake does not require renunciation of the world. It does not demand isolation or austerity. It asks only for presence. Spirituality is not an escape from humanity, it is a deeper immersion into it. It is the art of noticing the sacred in the ordinary, the glance of a stranger, the texture of rain on skin, the rise and fall of thought, the quiet awareness that notices all of this. When awake, fear loses its tyrannical grip, anxiety softens because it is recognized as a transient experience rather than the ultimate truth. Regret becomes a teacher, not a jailer, because each past choice can be seen as a stepping stone toward greater awareness. Gratitude arises naturally, not as a duty, but as recognition that every experience, pleasant or painful, is shaping the journey of the soul. To live awake is to recognize impermanence while cherishing presence. It is to honor each role you play without mistaking it for the whole. It is to act with intention while embracing the mystery of life's unfolding. Every interaction becomes an opportunity for depth. Every moment becomes a doorway into presence. You are here now. Awareness is observing itself in this very instant. That simple fact, often overlooked, is profound. It is the essence of living awake. Each breath, each thought, each feeling, each choice is a sacred station on the journey of the soul. And to notice them consciously is to travel with eyes open, heart receptive, and presence fully engaged. Chapter 10: The Return. Every journey, at some point, reaches its close. Breath slows, limbs release their habitual tension, roles dissolve one by one. The identities you have worn, the parent, the friend, the achiever, the seeker, soften and fade. The mind quiets. The body, once vibrant with activity, begins to return to the elements. What remains, if awareness preceded birth, perhaps it persists after death, not as the same personality, not as the familiar I who navigated this particular life, but as the same presence that has witnessed every experience, every emotion, every thought. The essence that has traveled through countless stops. Does not vanish, it continues. Ancient traditions describe this transition in different ways. The Tibetan Book of the Dead speaks of consciousness moving through stages after death, encountering its own life reflected back with clarity and compassion. Near-death accounts documented by Raymond Moody recount luminous passages, feelings of reunion, and a deep sense of continuity. Across cultures, the message resonates. Death is transformation, not annihilation. The journey does not end, it shifts. Some interpretations suggest rest, others, reflection, still others, preparation for a new incarnation, another body, another chapter, another opportunity to explore, to expand, to love. Whatever the form, awareness moves onward. The traveler steps lightly from one station to the next, carrying the essence of lessons learned, attachments released, and insights earned. This does not mean life is inconsequential. On the contrary, it is profoundly meaningful. Every encounter, every act of love, every choice made with attention leaves a trace. Each breath, each connection, each moment of presence becomes part of the traveler's accumulated experience. Life is both fleeting and eternal, temporary in form, yet lasting in consciousness. Understanding death as transition changes the way we live. Fear softens. Regret becomes instruction rather than imprisonment. Gratitude expands, because every moment is recognized as a unique opportunity in an ongoing voyage. and love unbound by time takes on new significance. Reaching beyond individual lifetimes, the traveler has been here before, and will likely continue beyond this station. The body is temporary, the story is temporary, yet awareness remains. It is the unbroken thread weaving together countless experiences, lessons, and stops along the journey. When the final breath arrives, the journey does not vanish. It simply flows onward, carrying the essence of this life into the next. Another stop, another opportunity, another unfolding of awareness. And in that continuity, there is peace, there is purpose, there is the quiet, enduring presence that has always been and always will be the traveler within. Conclusion: the journey now. Whether or not you believe in multiple lifetimes is secondary. The deeper truth lies not in proof, but in awareness. You are more than your current struggle, more than your past, more than the roles, expectations, and stories that seem to define you. Beneath every identity, every thought, every emotion, there is a presence that has been watching, learning, and simply being. That presence is the traveler within, the eternal witness journeying through countless stops, of which this life is only one. Right now is a sacred station, not because it is permanent, not because it contains everything, but because it exists. You are alive, you are conscious, you are aware. That alone makes this moment extraordinary. Awareness itself is the miracle. It is the thread connecting birth to death, suffering to joy, and individuality to unity. To live fully in this awareness is to live awake. It means noticing the ordinary and the extraordinary alike. It means engaging deeply with others while remembering the underlying connection that binds all consciousness. It means treating choices not as trivial, but as meaningful contributions to the unfolding of your own soul. To forgive is to lighten your journey. To love is to remember the unity that underlies separation. To create is to participate in the ongoing manifestation of life itself. Spirituality is not an escape from humanity. It is a deeper immersion in it. Every act, every encounter, every breath becomes a station along the journey. Even pain, disappointment, and loss serve as teachers when met with awareness. Every experience shapes the traveler within, adding depth, understanding, and wisdom to consciousness as it continues onward. The soul is traveling. It moves through bodies, roles, challenges, and joys, always learning, always expanding, always present. And this moment, this breath, is one of its many beautiful stops. Live gently, live bravely, live awake. Remember, the journey is not only ahead or behind. It is here, it is now, and the traveler within you is already on the path.